Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back here to today's edition of Intuitive Angling, and man, I really appreciate you guys making some time to spend with me to watch the video. Always very grateful for that. And guys, today we're going to have sort of a wide-ranging discussion. I'm going to make the case why it would be good for MLF. It's not only good for MLF, but good for the sport of bass fishing in general if they simply disbanded and got rid of the Bass Pro Tour. So we're going to talk about that. I've been wanting to do this video for a while, and definitely I want to get your guys' feedback as well, because I know a lot of you guys follow this sort of bass fishing drama that goes on quite a bit, just like I do. Also, guys, just a couple quick housekeeping tips before we get started here to keep the lights on in the tackle room. I just want to invite everybody, if you hadn't had a chance, to please hit that subscribe button to Intuitive Angling. It's free and easy to do. And also, I'd like to invite everybody to check out Tackle Warehouse has their summer kickoff sale going on right now. Got a lot of good deals on tackle. If you guys want to take advantage of that, just use the link. My Tackle Warehouse link I put in the description of the video to use it and bookmark it to purchase your tackle, and it's a good way to get some good tackle deals and support the channel at the same time, so really appreciate that. Okay guys, before I get into this, I want to clarify one thing. A lot of you guys hear me, I'm very critical of Bassmaster and MLF on different issues, but I do that because I want to see them succeed, and I love them. I love both organizations. Have been great to me. I've made a career out of fishing Bassmaster and FLW, which was, that's what it was before MLF purchased it. So I'm not trying to dog them and just trying to, undermine them for no reason. When something happens within those organizations, I try to use my platform to push them in the right direction. So probably it will help them out if they take that advice, because I've been in this sport for 45 plus years. I've seen a bunch of stuff come and go, seen the reality of the situations unfold, and I've been there since the start of all this. So wanted to preface that. Now, first of all, let me talk a little bit about MLF, because MLF was originally FLW. And one of the things that I always have felt is I think that the creation of FLW back in the late 90s was sort of like, there was a lot of good and there was a lot of bad. And I think, in my opinion, looking at it in the long term, as far as the long-term sustainability of the sport, I think that it was a bad thing that FLW ever came in existence, because what happened is when FLW came in existence, it splintered the sport, and you no longer had a definitive baseline of what professional fishing was. Prior to FLW, professional fishing was the Bassmaster Tournament Trail, just like the NFL and football, or Major League Baseball, or the PGA and golf. Bassmaster Tournament Trail was the definitive entity within professional fishing. And once FLW came around and they started throwing a bunch of money into it, they got aligned with Walmart. They had a lot of vendor money coming in. They threw a ton of money into the sport. They paid $1 million in the Forest Wood Cup, and the industry got split. And what happened with that is, when that industry got split and you had half the people that moved to FLW or was fishing both, depending upon their situation, it no longer became clear to the general public and the industry, the sponsors, whatever, what or who was a professional angler. It's like, does Bassmaster have the pros or does FLW have the pros? This was not a good thing, because what this did is when FLW came about, it benefited a small number of people. I was one of those people that benefited. I had a sponsor team deal for almost 10 years with FLW, or over 10 years with FLW. I benefited from it greatly, but most people didn't. Most people, once FLW came around, it became difficult to get sponsors. The competition, there was more people out there. It became more difficult all the way around, which leads us to the topic of today's deal about why MLF needs to get rid of the Bass Pro Tour. Okay, this whole Bass Pro Tour, in my opinion, it has been really bad for the sport. And first of all, before I get into this, let me say that MLF, the strongest part of MLF is the Phoenix Bass Fishing League and the Toyota Series. Those are great tournament circuits. MLF needs to focus on those. They need to focus exclusively on the BFLs and the Toyota Series. Those are exemplary circuits. Everybody loves them. Awesome part of MLF. Not so much with the Bass Pro Tour. The Bass Pro Tour has, in my opinion, it's been a failure from the start. The way they formed the thing was it left the industry with a bad taste in their mouth that still exists today. They basically pulled all the stars away from Bassmaster. This split created a tremendous amount of anger and animosity and division within the sport. When they splintered Bassmaster, a lot of people had followed at Bassmaster, they jumped ship. They were seen as unloyal. It left Bassmaster in an awkward position. Everybody went over to MLF chasing this golden carrot that was dangled in front of them for all this money, which it just never materialized. And on top of that, the way that they did it, when they formed the Bass Pro Tour, they just handpicked a bunch of dudes. They handpicked 80 dudes who they wanted with no qualification. It's like they didn't give any reason why they invited who or this. They just basically handpicked whoever they wanted, and that delegitimized the organization. That delegitimized the circuit when they did that. If they would have had a clear-cut qualification criteria and say, if they would have said something like, okay, look, this is how we have a new circuit here, this is how we're going to start it. We're going to take the top 50 all-time money winners on the Bassmaster circuit and FLW, and then we're going to take the top 50 guys who have qualified for the most Forrest Wood Cups or Bassmasters Classic, and that's going to be our field. They didn't do that, so they delegitimized the field right off the bat. And then as time went on, nobody could keep up with anything they did. They had so many changes. There were so many format changes, so many rule changes that people just gave up trying to figure out what was going on over there. And then on top of that, you started seeing a bunch of disgruntled people that went from the Bassmaster Elite Series over to the Bass Pro Tour, found out it wasn't all that, and they crawled back over to Bass, took their exemptions or whatever, but they started crawling back over to Bass because it just wasn't the golden carrot they thought it was. And on top of that, it continues to do the same thing that FLW did. The MLF tour clouds the entire conversation of who is a professional angler. Is the pro anglers the Bassmaster Elite Series, or is it the Bass Pro Tour? You can't have both. No organization out there that has sustained and become a legitimate sporting organization like the PGA, like whatever, has done this. Now, everybody has seen the negative impact that the Live Golf has had with PGA. Ever since the Saudis came into this and started throwing a bunch of blood money into the sport, and pros started getting over there, it has splintered the PGA. It has been a very negative thing for that organization, sort of the same way what happened with MLF and Bassmaster as far as splintering that sport. So in my opinion, here's my advice to MLF and the point of the video. It would behoove MLF and it would benefit them if they would shut down the Bass Pro Tour. Simply get rid of it, focus all their energy on the BFL, the Phoenix Bass Fishing League, the Toyota Series. That is their bread and butter. That is their strength. Both of those tournament circuits I've never heard anybody say anything bad about them. Yeah, the payouts suck, but the payouts suck in every tournament. But they put on a good tournament. It's in their wheelhouse, and it does not interfere or create this division amongst the top level pros about what a pro is. We need the Bassmaster tournament circuit to be the only professional circuit out there. Ideally, in a perfect world, Bassmaster would be owned by the anglers. That would make it perfect. I know since it's a private company and it's privately owned, that throws a cog into it a little bit, and people talk about monopolies and all that. But in the big picture, when you look at the big picture of the thing, the creation of FLW and MLF has basically undermined, in my opinion, the credibility of what professional fishing is, because it confuses everybody. It confuses the public, it confuses the industry, the sport, everything about it. It makes it more difficult to compete. It makes it more difficult to get sponsors. Ever since FLW was created and MLF, you got this sponsorship pie that is finite. And since you have more people that are, quote, professional anglers now, that pie gets smaller and smaller and smaller all the time, which makes it more difficult for anglers to gain good sponsorships and make a living of the sport, which creates this elitism that I talk about, because as it's more difficult, or as it gets more difficult to get sponsorships, the only people that can afford it are the people that are financially independent. That's what we've seen. We've seen this influx of 20-something-year-old anglers out there with wealthy parents that are getting interjected into the sport. They've got $150,000 boats, $150,000 trucks. They can, they got 20-year-old kids that can spend $200,000 a year fishing. That wasn't ever like that before, but we've been forced in that position because the sponsorship dollars have basically dried up due to too many people out there. So the point of the video on this, guys, is I do not, even though I've been a beneficiary of it and I've been into this, if I'm looking at the big picture of the sport and what's best for the sport, and if we want to advance the sport and give it the legitimacy and credibility that it needs, the creation of the FLW Tour and then the ensuing purchase of FLW by MLF has been a negative thing in the sport on the top level. If FLW would have maintained, or MLF, and had nothing but the BFLs and the Toyota Series, it'd have been so much more of a perfect world. We'd have had the Bassmaster Tournament Circuit, the Bassmasters Classic as the only circuit. That would be the thing that everybody strived to get into. It'd be so much better for the sport, the organizations, the anglers, the fans, everything out there. So anyway, guys, I like I said, this is my opinion on it, and I don't know, everything they got going on, but it seems like to me, just from being an outside observer on it and talking to everybody and talking to my buddies that fish the Bass Pro Tour, seems like they're really struggling over there on a lot of different levels, and it may just be a good time for them just to cut their losses and focus on their strengths again, which is the BFLs and the Toyota Series. So anyway, guys, let me know what y'all think. Shoot me some comments, and we'll talk to y'all later. See you.